In a previous video, we went over due dates, close dates, and how to update them from arbitrary and archaic to modern. And to do this, I suggested that your due date should be a reasonable amount of time for students to actually complete it. Not just your high achievers, but all of your students. And that you should always have a 0 when the due date hits. Just automatically have the computer issue a 0. You go through, punch in a 0 on the due date, no matter what, okay? But that your close dates should be further out, as close to the end of your semester as you can possibly manage. And the reason why is because it gives all students the opportunity to make up for those moments when, you know, life just happens, or they're teenagers, or they are your high at-risk students, and there's a really good chance that they're going to fail this class regardless, okay? But even those kids have their moments where they want to succeed, and you want to be able to be there for them to help them to succeed and have one less reason to just stop going to school. The 0s for the due dates. It might seem a little harsh to slap those 0s on there, but you're actually doing the student a favor. You are letting them know what their grade's going to be if they don't turn in the assignment, but at the same time, you're also helping them to pay attention to the assignment. Students will not pay attention to an assignment if it doesn't have a score on it, period. Simple as that. A lot of them will just breeze past it thinking they don't have to worry about it. So you need to make sure you're adding those 0s. And then by pushing the close dates further out, you give them more agency, more power to be able to work with their own lives, their own goings on, whatever's happening in their universe, and be able to make sure they get their work done. Guys, you're probably thinking, Smith, this is a great idea. It's a fantastic idea, but you're also saying it's not practical. Like, this is not something that can be done. You're going to have a giant tsunami of work at the end of the semester because everyone is going to throw all of their assignments at you at the last second. I get it. I understand that concern. And when I first did this, that did in fact happen to me. I did get that tsunami. But it wasn't because of the students. It was because I had bad procedures for getting this done. But as I've improved my procedures, it's allowed me to implement this policy in a much more relaxed way that is equitable for all students. So let's use this video to go over a few things that are going to help to assuage your concern about the tsunami. We're going to learn about student nature. We're going to learn about some policies and procedures that you can implement in your class to modulate the amount of work coming at you. We're also going to learn about some helpful technologies that you might be able to implement if you're fortunate enough to have access to them that will allow you to rapidly implement these things as well. But honestly, doing any of these things is going to help to push those close dates a little further back for your students and make your class a little more equitable. Okay, so let's touch on that student nature piece first. Let's break your students into 3 categories: your high performers, your moderate performing students, and then you're at risk, you're high at risk of failing. So for your high performers are not going to wait to the last second. Okay, they're not going to be a part of the tsunami at the end of the semester. They're not going to be inundating you with work at the end. They're really not, because they're constantly aware of what their grade is, and they've got that personal goal. Maybe something got in the way. Maybe they had an assignment that was going to affect them have a much greater impact on them in another class than the assignment they missed for you, which dropped them from an A to a B, or dropped them from high A to a low A. Maybe something occurred in their life, and they're like, I just got to deal with it. Or maybe they just had a personal failing. They're allowed to be human, okay? They're going to be on top of this stuff, though, almost 99% of the time. So if you tell them, hey, here's the due date, it's going to give you an automatic 0, or I'm going to give you a 0, okay, because you didn't hit the due date, but you got until this date to actually turn it in. I promise you, they're going to get it in pretty close after that due date. Okay, that 0 pops up, they see what happened in their grade, because they're checking it. They're checking it regularly. These are the kids that if you don't have a live grade book online, they're asking you constantly, okay? If they do have a online grade book they can access, they're checking it regularly. Your moderate students are where you might get a bit of a wave, but honestly, not too much, because I'm going to explain to you some procedures that you can implement in your class to help make sure this policy doesn't overwhelm you at the end. So your moderate students are going to be checking their grades less frequently. It's going to be your moderate students that probably give you the most work, honestly. I mean, this policy is really designed to help out those really high at-risk students, and many of them will take advantage of this, I promise you. But your larger volume work is going to come from the moderate performing students. They'll be giving you a lot of work around progress report time, because that's usually when their parents are like, oh, I've got kids in school, I should probably find out how they're doing. So you're getting parent involvement heavily around those time periods. The students themselves start thinking, oh, mom and dad are going to ask. They start checking themselves again. And when they go through and they see all those zeros from when they failed to turn in the work, okay, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, what can I do? Well, you tell them, hey, you got until this close date to get the assignments into me. Yes, there's a 0 on it because you passed the due date, but the assignment is still available. Go ahead and turn it in. So you'll be getting these bursts before and after your progress reports. And then as you get closer to the end of the semester and students are aware, oh, the class is wrapping up, this is the end, and they're starting to really truly engage, and their parents are starting to really truly engage again, you're going to start noticing towards the end of the semester, about a month before, that your moderate students are starting to turn in more work. It's just human nature, okay? They're going to wait. Unfortunately, they will. We would love for them to turn in by the due dates, but they're not going to. A lot of them will not. It's just who they are. And we as instructors also have this problem where we tend to think that we are, it's not even us. It's a universal human problem. Humans are a little self-centered. So we tend to think that everything is about us. These kids, they got so many other things going on in their lives, just like you did when you were in high school. Giving this opportunity to your high-performing students and your moderate-level students is beneficial in another way. Consider it a form of public outreach. We are involved in politics. We are absolutely 100% involved in politics because our budgets, the support we have to help these kids, which is woefully inadequate in many, many states, it's set by politicians in the state legislature. So consider this to be yet one more form of public outreach that you as a teacher can practice. By helping our students to achieve their goals, by giving them one more way to do it, by getting rid of one more roadblock to their success, we improve the image that these students have of us as teachers, as educators, as an educational community. And then as the students do well, the parents are happier. And you don't even have to sacrifice ethics in order to do this. And we're going to talk later on about grade massaging. For this is an ethical way to help you to improve relationships between you, the students, and the parents. Okay? You are giving them more opportunities to succeed. And because the parents are voters, and because the students will eventually become voters, you are in essence helping the political situation today and tomorrow. Now let's talk about your at-risk students. These are the ones that this is definitely going to help the most. A lot of your at-risk students are, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but I want it to stick. They are career failures. And it's not because they're not capable of success. It's not because they aren't intelligent or good human beings. It's because they've kind of gotten into a cycle. Like something bad happened, or maybe they didn't have the supports they needed in elementary. And ever since then, it's just been fail after fail after fail. And they've just kind of gotten used to it. They have this mindset of nobody's going to help me. Nobody's helping me at home. Nobody's helping me at school. Everyone is out for themselves. We need to break that cycle for a lot of these kids. Okay. And you're not going to break it for all of them. I'm not saying you are. You are not going to, with this policy, save every single failing student, career failing student. You're just not. Okay. But if you can save some of them in your class, and your partner teachers can save some of them in their classes, and then the schools around you can do the same thing in all their school sites, we can increase the percentage of students who are doing well, that are breaking the cycle, because they're so used to failing. And if they keep failing, then why even bother? Why bother with the next class? Why bother coming to school at all if you're just going to fail? There's literally no way to succeed. There's no way for you to graduate on time. So why even bother? And that's what we need to fight. That's what we need to head off and prevent in as many students as we possibly can. I've had students over the last almost 15 years of teaching who hardly engaged with me at all. But then towards the end of the semester, they started trying. But mathematically, it's almost impossible. If I have closed assignments, if I don't let them have access to the earlier materials, it's effectively impossible for them to pass. And they know that. So they'll try, and they just have these moments where they're interested and they try for like a week, and then they're like, I can't. My grade isn't moving, and I don't have access to enough points, and there's no way that with what we have left that I can do this, and they just stop again. The point of this policy is to create that chance of success, to encourage that moment when those high at-risk students try again, because they're going to. There's going to be moments where they try, and I want to be able to put oxygen into that little fire that they got going, and hopefully turn it into a roaring flame of success. But don't worry about being overwhelmed. I know, once again, it sounds like a good thing. We want to help these kids. We want to help them to succeed. But Smith, it's just not enough time. There's just going to be too many of them. Don't worry about that. Okay? Because high achieving, moderate achieving, high risk, it's all the same. Human nature is going to come into effect. They're only going to do enough work. 99% of the time, they're only going to do enough work to get to their specific goal. So for those high achieving students, it's usually getting to an A. For the moderate students, it's whatever grade their parents want them to have. And then for the failing students, it's usually a D. I've only had maybe 1 or 2 students over my entire career that have been doing this particular policy that were hardcore Fs that managed to get up to anything more than a D. And usually when they get to D, they're happy. So don't worry about them overwhelming you, because their own human nature is going to modulate how much work they turn into. All right, so now that we've gone over why we're doing this, and we've broken the groups, and we've broken the students into the groups, and how human nature is going to modulate the amount of work coming at you, let's go over a couple of procedures that you can implement for yourself and then for your students that'll help you to modulate that flow of work. First thing we're going to talk about are segmenting your due dates. We're going to break our assignments into those that can grade themselves versus those that we have to grade personally. So for your personally graded assignments, we're going to want to move those close dates closer to where you are currently at. All right, not further back, not towards the end of the semester, but a little bit closer towards you. I'll usually start setting my close dates 5, maybe 6 weeks before the end of the semester. What I usually tell my students is this: anyone, passing or failing, can turn in their assignments up until this close date. Okay, and we're talking about their late assignments, not their ones that I'm issuing at that point. Those ones get their own unique close dates that are based off of how much time I have left and the size of the assignment. But I'm talking about all the stuff they had from the beginning of the semester. This gives my high achievers and my moderate achieving students the opportunity to get those assignments in, get to their preferred letter grade, and then they just have to maintain off of what else I'm issuing until the end of the semester. It's like that last month worth of assignments, which is possible for them. Okay, so I get a bit of a burst towards that close date, not too much, because they're going to be doing a mixture of both assignments that I have to grade and assignments that automatically grade themselves, because like I said, they can turn in anything up until that point. And a lot of them, as with human nature, people want things fast. So if they've got assignments that'll grade themselves, they're going to do those more often than not, because they get their results back quickly and they get to see their grade go up quickly. They don't have to wait for me to get around to grading it. So a lot of them will go that route. But once we hit that 5-week or that 6-week mark, okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, I tell them, okay, and this is for everyone. I make this perfectly clear what's happening in advance. I don't hide any of this. I don't surprise anyone with any of this. I let everyone know in advance. I say, all right, we've hit 4 weeks before the end of the semester. Now, only people who are failing can turn in assignments that are late, that are past due, that are those old ones in the beginning of the semester or the middle of the semester. Only failing students can turn in assignments from that time period. And I will stop grading them once they get to 60%. And then I do another close date. Okay, and I just straight out say, okay, guys, I am no longer accepting any of your assignments that need to be graded by me a week before my grades are due. Like, just because I need time. And by this point, ladies and gentlemen, you have whittled down the number of people who are submitting work to you to a small batch that are just those failing students. So you don't have to worry about getting a wave anymore, because you probably only have about 25, maybe 30% of your population that are failing by the time you start talking about these close dates, okay? And then that percentage is going to go down further, because those students that are at the high end, the 50%, the 40%, they're going to get their work in, they're going to get up to the passing, and then they're going to just maintain. By the time you get to the very end of the semester, like the last 2 weeks, you're going to have a bunch of students that are like that have been working from the single digits, the teens, the 20s, maybe even the 30s. They will be pushing themselves up. Some of them won't. Some of them aren't going to engage at all, but others will. So you're not going to have that many. You really aren't by the time you get to that like last week, and you say, all right guys, I'm not accepting work from anyone anymore, period, unless it grades itself. Because I need time to actually go through and read what you submitted to me, grade it. You're going to get a variety of different levels of work at this point from those high risk students. Some of it might be acceptable. A lot of it's probably going to be bad. As long as it's on topic, as long as it's moving towards the instructions you set up for the assignment, their grades are going to improve. Anything is better than a 0, and they're just moving their grades up. Boom, boom, boom. And if they get it to you before that final close date where you say, it's a week before the end of the semester, I need time to grade whatever gets submitted to me, I'm not accepting any more papers or anything that I have to personally grade from anyone else. If they get it to you like a week before that, and you have time to give them feedback on it, and they can go back and do a resubmission, they can get their grades up even better. But you're taking it from a large population to a smaller population, to an even smaller population after that. By implementing that 60% rule, you're saying, hey, I'm not going to, you're preventing that perpetual cycle of work effectively. So that's my rule for assignments I have to grade myself. Okay, I'm breaking it down into sections, and I'm saying, hey, 6 weeks before, everyone has to stop submitting assignments that I have to grade, and only students who are failing can turn assignments in from there on out. And then like a week before, I say, okay, if you were failing, you can't turn in anything that I have to grade. Okay, from here on out, period. You got to do it all off of self-grading. Self-grading is a different beast altogether. Self-grading is going to fall into one of two categories. Either you have to give them a physical bubble sheet, but it gets scanned by some type of machine, and then the scores populate either in your computer, or you have to hand type them in which case you got to figure out how much time you need. Or you're really fortunate and your students take their tests online and the scores populate in your actual grade book, or they populate into another system that you can easily transfer the scores over to. Your self-grading assignments, those are a different beast altogether. Those ones I've taken all the way to the last day. I've had students that I was telling everyone, because I'm like, hey, get the stuff into me, get the stuff into me, get the stuff into me. And I was like, get into me the night, 11:59 before school, the last day of school. And I've had students that weren't passing by that point, and they come in the next day and they're dejected and they're like a 57%, and I'm like, this quiz, and this quiz, do them now, get them done. And they go through and they do them, and their grades get up to a bare minimum 60. They earned that 60. They demonstrated the knowledge and the content mastery enough to get to a 60, and I was able to transfer it over and save those credits for them, help to break their cycles. But it really truly is up to you. All right, it's up to what tools you have available to you and the other tasks that your district gives you at the last day, or your site gives you at the last day. All right, so do you agree with my ideas? Do you think this should be a policy in all schools? Do you have any suggestions on how to implement it better? I'm not the end-all be-all. Maybe you've done something different, or you've come up with an idea. Share it. Put it in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you want more information on the due dates and close dates, I've got a video for that, and it should be attached to the end of this and pop up after I leave you here. All right, talk to you later. Bye.